Hi again, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm. I'm back with my month-by-month rose care video series, this one for the month of May. And to place things into context, my early blooming Scots roses are already in bloom in the garden, and the rest of the roses, the old garden roses, the repeat bloomers, are just waiting, just budding up now, and probably will be in bloom by the end of the month or early into June. So the function of the rose care this month, at least in my climate, is to hold the line on early condition of the roses, keep them heading towards that first flush of blooms. So let's go out and see what we need to do. Discussing the main activities on roses, the first question I'm going to answer is this the right time to prune your roses? And my answer is, that would seem a shame. These are going into bud right now. They've got big buds on them, they've got healthy growth, and this one's at a healthy size, so I wouldn't even consider it. That being said, you are definitely within the safe period for pruning your roses, so if you missed your spring pruning and you're concerned about the shape and size of your roses, you can definitely go ahead and prune them now, just keeping in mind the timelines. From a heavy prune in my climate, many North American climates, it's going to be about 8 weeks from prune up to rebloom. Now, if you did a lighter prune, something just aimed at the tips or some light reshaping, you might expect that to shorten to 6 weeks. But basically, if you're this close to flowering, you might want to consider just letting them flower out, prune them after that. That'll reset it for its next flush. And how about the activity of planting roses? I want to show you this one here. This is Chicago Peace, and it was a grafted rose. And you can see the base there, I hope I can get you a good view of that it just got larger and larger. That graft union became sort of covered with scar tissue and disease over a length of time. I got about 10 years out of it, and it finally has given up the ghost. I see a little rose looking sprout down here. I suspect strongly that that would be from the root stock and not from the scion variety, so this one needs replacing. Now, would I go ahead and replant at this time of year? I would have no hesitation to do so in the month of May in this climate. There's still plenty of soil moisture. It's getting into that season. If I tried this in June or July, I'd have to pay special attention to watering. But given where the original plant was there, first of all, I'm not going to plant it directly in the same spot because that hibiscus shrub right beside it is kind of competing for space. It always has. So I'd like to move it a little further away. I'll probably put one rose over here and a second one over here. The side advantage of that is, and I'm sure you've heard of the condition called rose replant disease or soil sickness, where the soil in this exact planting spot where the mother plant was or the original plant was has the biome, or basically the biology of that soil, has become adapted to the roots of that rose. So if you try to put a fresh brand new rose into the same spot, it can be outcompeted by the soil life that's already there. So it's better to move it a little bit away from the original long established rose. Let's talk about soil and fertilizer as the next section. And for my established roses, I'm giving them roughly a cup of alfalfa. That's a decent amount of nitrogen, lower amounts of phosphorus and potassium, and adds organic matter to the soil. And I'm doing that on a rotation of every 6 weeks or so. I did want to get into the quick question of, some people ask, should I be liquid feeding my roses as well, or should I be supplementing them further? I usually reserve that for when I see conditions that are like yellowing or lightening or paling out on the roses. I want to give you some examples of that. I showed you last month that there were some roses that were showing yellowing, and I said hold off, because at this point the soil was too cool and you wouldn't have that uptake of iron and other nutrients. But at this point I can show you the distinction of ones I would feed and ones I wouldn't. Feeding based on foliage color is tricky. Some roses are naturally more dark burgundy or purple, and other varieties, and I'm going to swing you over to the left here, are never that color of burgundy or purple, no matter how well you feed them. So given the difficulty in judging by eye, you're going to have to get a bit of a sense for what in your plant appears to be growing well to you and it's in its normal color range. This is a nice, healthy, mid-green color, and I'm looking across it here. I see good foliage color, but I do see a slight bit of variance in the darkness of the leaves, say from down here up to here, where it's a bit paler, but a minor variance like that would not spook me. Now I want to give you a slightly more pronounced example. You can see that on this young plant, the older leaves are a darker green, but up here near the growing tips, it is a pronounced, lighter, paler, yellower color, And what that can indicate is that some of those nutrients that are not easily translocated in the tissues, things like iron and calcium, are not moving from the older leaves to the younger leaves and may be in short supply. So in that case, I keep a nice balanced liquid feed fertilizer around that has the micronutrients. It has iron, it has calcium, both of which roses use in reasonable amounts, and I might consider a liquid feed on this one lightly, keeping in mind that it is a young plant, so don't overdo it. And if in response to that liquid feed, I see that coloration cures itself, I get a darker color on the newer leaves, then I know I've brought things into balance. For this section on watering, just a reminder not to become complacent. For those plants that have been in pots, you've probably been attending to them for some time now. And if you're in another climate, I hear the UK is unusually dry this spring, you have probably been watering out in the landscape as well. But here, on the lower mainland, it's probably easy to get lulled into a false sense of security. Have a look at how green and lush and plentiful the water has been. So I would just advise you, don't let that stop you from checking them. The first time we have a week without water, let's get out there and check the roots and make sure we're getting onto a regular watering program here, because it is much harder to re-wet the soil and get the plants happy after a period of drought than it is just to keep them watered straight through. Talking now about pests and disease, let's go on a scouting mission for some foliar disease, and I also want to show you how to spot sawfly. Well, here's Robusta coming into bloom, bright red. It is a showstopper in the garden when it goes off, and you see lots of new buds coming there. But as glossy and as beautiful as these leaves look right now, if you look a little further in, as I tip you down into the canopy of the plant, you're going to start to see signs down there of a little bit of black spot emerging underneath the canopy. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you have to go and clean every plant perfectly all the time, but watching for these early signs of a black spot down low on the plant is a warning sign, and if you get to them early, you may be able to avoid a larger defoliation later on. And it really is just as simple as stripping back some of those affected leaves before they have a chance to spread elsewhere on the plant. Rose slug sawfly can begin with damage that looks a little bit like this, tiny little holes in the leaves. In fact, it can even be like this, where they're so small that they're not even able to chew all the way through the leaf, and they just leave these little skeletonized patches on the leaves. Then as they proceed upwards and they're growing and getting larger, then you will see the damage becoming more pronounced like that, up to the point where you can have an almost fully defoliated or pulled apart leaf. So that's what you expect to see from rose slug sawfly, is these tiny little holes down low, proceeding to more dramatic damage a little bit higher. And if you keep on focusing in those areas of the plant, what you can eventually find, and I'm hoping I can focus in on it here, is the pest itself underneath the leaves. As for a solution if you do find sawfly, well, I could be accused of being kind of a laissez-faire gardener, leave it alone and the predators will get them, and they do have plenty of predators, but I am aware that it can get so bad at times when you're having whole plants skeletonized badly that you have to take matters into your own hands. They are susceptible to insecticidal soap if you hit it in the right area. So as you're scouting there, you're looking for the level that is getting the worst amount of damage, and you want to get the undersides of all of those leaves across that whole level. Typically, sawfly is sort of mid to high level on the plant where you see the damage. If insecticidal soap on its own won't handle the issue, if it's permitted in your area, there's a biologically derived insecticide called spinosad, which if you can get your hands on it, that's not a bad solution. Well, let me give you a 1-minute propagation tip here, and that is this, that on some varieties of roses, if they hit the ground and they stay in contact with that soil for any length of time, they will actually layer down there. It's a kind of a natural process. So what you can do is you can do that on purpose. You can get that down here, pin them down with something like, say, a tent peg, and get them in contact with that soil and hold them in contact with the soil. Cover them over a little bit just on the stems, and then leave it. And what you may come back to later on is that these stems here that have laid down and have been in contact with that soil will over time have developed their own roots. You can go a little fancier and scrape them and put on rooting hormone, but I've had good success just with this, again, depending on variety. Well, my habit is to finish off these rose care videos with a plant highlight. This one is one called Snow Pavement, and kind of a misnomer called snow, but it's actually a light lilac color, which can come off as more white in the landscape, strangely, from a distance. I'll get you some close-ups of the blooms here. They are highly scented. It's a rugosa rose. This is about its full height. I haven't pruned it deeply, so it's ended up being around 6 feet in my landscape, more typically something around 4, but excellent rose, very healthy, and I'm loving the bloom color. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please drop them down into the comments below the video, and I'll see what I can do to help.